3,000 years was a long time. Long enough for empires to rise and fall. Long enough for stars to be born and die. Long enough for the galaxy to forget about a small blue planet called Earth. The galactic hegemony had made their decision 3,000 years ago. Humans were too dangerous, too wild, too unpredictable. They fought wars over nothing. They destroyed their own world for profit. They could not be trusted with the stars' dot, so the hegemony built a wall. Not a wall of stone or metal, but a wall of energy. A containment field that wrapped around the entire solar system like a cage. Nothing could get in. Nothing could get out. The humans were trapped with their own violence, and the galaxy moved on. Everyone expected them to destroy themselves. 100 years, maybe 200, and the problem would solve itself. The hegemony checked the field every few centuries, just to be safe. Each time, the readings showed the same thing. The humans were still there. Still alive. Still trapped. Admiral Una was old, even by hegemony standards. She had commanded fleets for 200 years. She had seen wars and peace and everything in between. Nothing surprised her anymore, until today. The emergency signal came while her fleet patrolled the outer rim of known space. The containment field around Sol had failed. Not weakened. Not damaged. Failed completely. Dissolved like morning fog under a strong sun. Una ordered her fleet to investigate. 12 warships, each one a masterpiece of hegemony engineering. Smooth spherical hulls that distributed shield energy perfectly. Standardized weapon placements that allowed for precise tactical calculations. These ships represented 50,000 years of design refinement. They were perfect. The journey took 3 days. Una spent most of that time reviewing old files about humanity. The records were not kind. Wars fought over land, over resources, over ideas. Weapons that poisoned the earth for generations. Leaders who killed millions of their own people. The decision to quarantine them seemed more reasonable with every page she read. Her fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space. Una stood on her bridge and looked at the main screen, expecting to see ruins. Dead worlds. Perhaps a few scattered survivors clinging to broken stations. She was wrong. Ships filled the screen. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They hung in space like a forest of metal and light, arranged in perfect formation. An armada waiting at the gate of their prison. "Report," Una said. Her voice was calm, but her heart beat faster. Her tactical officer studied his screens with growing confusion. "Unknown configurations, Admiral. I cannot identify the ship classes. They do not match any known design principles." Una looked closer at the human ships. They were wrong. Everything about them was wrong. Hegemony ships were spheres, because spheres were optimal. The universal design principles, developed over 50,000 years, proved this mathematically. Spherical hulls distributed shield energy evenly. They presented no weak angles to enemy fire. They were perfect. Human ships were not spheres. They were not anything Una recognized. Some were flat and thin, like giant blades cutting through space. Others were long and twisted, like corkscrews made of metal. A few had no clear front or back at all. They bristled with strange protrusions that might have been weapons or sensors or something else entirely. "Threat assessment," Una ordered. Her tactical officer was silent for a long moment. "Impossible to calculate, Admiral. Their designs do not follow any logical pattern. I cannot predict their capabilities. This had never happened before. Hegemony tactical systems could analyze any ship and determine its strengths and weaknesses within seconds. These systems had been refined over millennia. They had never failed until now. A communication signal came through. Una accepted it. A human face appeared on screen. A young woman with dark hair pulled back tightly. Her uniform was deep blue, simple but well made. Her eyes were calm and steady. "I am Fleet Commander Hannah of the Terran Sovereignty," the woman said. Her voice was clear and confident. "You are entering human space. State your intentions or leave." Yuna had spoken with many species over her long career. She had negotiated with ancient beings and young civilizations alike. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No quarantined species had ever dared. "We detected the containment field's collapse," Yuna replied carefully. "We came to investigate. To offer assistance if needed." Commander Hannah smiled. It was a small smile, polite but not warm. "The field did not collapse, Admiral. We took it down. We have been ready for quite some time." Yuna felt cold. The field had been built by the greatest engineers in the galaxy. It was supposed to be unbreakable from the inside. The humans should not have been able to touch it. How? The question escaped before Yuna could stop it. 3,000 years is a long time, Commander Hannah said. "We used it well. Every day, every hour, every minute. While you forgot about us, we remembered you. We studied the field. We learned its secrets. And when we were ready, we opened the door ourselves." Behind the commander, Yuna could see more humans moving on their bridge. They worked with quiet efficiency, each one focused on their task. They did not look like a species that had just escaped a prison. They looked like a species that had been planning this moment for generations. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. Commander Hannah leaned forward slightly. "That depends on you. We have no desire for war. We have had enough of being alone. But we will not be caged again. Not ever." Her eyes met Yuna's through the screen. "The question is simple, Admiral. Are you ready for us? Is your hegemony ready to meet humanity as equals? Because we are done being forgotten." Yuna looked at the impossible ships, at the Kong commander, at the armada that should not exist. For the first time in 200 years, she had no idea what to do next. The Hegemony Council was not happy. 12 species, each one ancient and powerful, gathered in their great chamber to discuss the human problem. They argued for days. How had the quarantine failed? How had a primitive species developed such strange technology? And most importantly, what were those ships? No one had answers. So they decided to send a delegation to find out. The humans agreed to meet at a border station they called Gateway. It was a simple name for a simple structure. A metal box floating in empty space, far from any planet or star. The Hegemony sent their finest military minds. Generals and admirals and tacticians who had won countless battles. Among them was Doran. He was not a soldier, but a thinker. His job was to study enemy ships and find their weaknesses. For 300 years, he had done this perfectly. Every ship design in the galaxy had passed through his analytical mind. He knew their secrets. He knew how to beat them. But as his shuttle approached Gateway, Doran felt something unusual. Uncertainty. The human ships made no sense to him. Their shapes broke every rule he knew. He could not wait to understand them. The humans sent only one representative. Captain Taiho was a tall man with gray hair at his temples. He smiled easily, but his eyes were always watching, always measuring. He greeted the delegation politely and led them inside the station. "You want to understand our ships," Taiho said as they walked. "That is reasonable. We would want the same thing." They entered a large observation room. One entire wall was a window looking out into space. Taiho gestured, and a human ship drifted into view. It was one of the blade-shaped designs. Long and impossibly thin, like a knife made for giants. Perhaps 2 kilometers from end to end, but so narrow it almost disappeared when viewed from certain angles. "This is the TSS Patience," Taiho explained. "We call it an interceptor class." Your analysts probably cannot figure out where we put the shields. Doran stepped forward. He had been studying this exact question. The whole shape is wrong for standard shield projection. Based on our calculations, you would have gaps in your protection covering at least 70% of the vessel. Correct. Taiho's smile grew wider. We do not use shields. The delegation went silent. Every species in the galaxy used shields. They were the foundation of space warfare. Without shields, a ship was just metal waiting to be melted. That is impossible, one of the generals said. You would be destroyed in any battle, would we? Taiho pulled up a holographic display. Numbers and diagrams filled the air. 3,000 years in a cage. No access to your technology. No teachers. No guides. We had to figure everything out ourselves. And because we started from nothing, we asked different questions. He pointed at the patients floating outside. You asked, how do we stop enemy fire from hitting us? We asked, how do we make sure enemy fire never reaches us in the first place? He let that sink in. The patience does not need shields because nothing can hit it. Look at the hull. When viewed from any attack angle, the target profile is smaller than most fighter craft. And the engines can change direction faster than your targeting systems can follow. Doran studied the hologram with growing amazement. The mathematics were elegant. Simple, even. Why had no one thought of this before? But that only works if you run away, another delegate pointed out. What about a fence? Taiho touched the hologram. The display shifted to show the blade's edge, glowing with energy. The entire front edge is a weapon. We do not have guns mounted on our ships, General. Our ships are guns. The patience accelerates to attack speed, passes through enemy formations, and cuts them apart, literally. By the time your weapons turn to track it, the patience is already gone. This is. Doran searched for the right word. Unconventional. We had 3,000 years to be unconventional. Taiho dismissed the hologram. Every species in your hegemony builds ships the same way. You learn from each other. You share designs and ideas. You have been improving the same basic concept for 50,000 years. But you never asked if that concept was the only way. He led them to another window. A different ship waited there. This one was massive, a floating city of metal and light. But its shape was just as strange as the patience. Curved sections connected by thin bridges. Hollow spaces where a solid hull should be. This is the Eternal Dawn, Carrier class. Commander Jisoo leads this vessel. A woman's face appeared on a nearby screen. She was middle-aged with kind eyes, but her voice carried absolute authority. Welcome to my ship, Commander Jisoo said. The Eternal Dawn does not carry fighters. We carry drones. 7 million of them. 7 million. The number hung in the air like a threat. Each drone is the size of a human fist, Jisoo continued. Each one operates independently. Each one carries enough explosives to damage a destroyer. When we release them, they become a cloud. A swarm. Your ships are designed to fight other ships. Mine is designed to fight wars. Doran felt dizzy. Every answer created new questions. Every revelation showed how little he understood. Why show us this? He asked Taiho as the tour continued. Why reveal your secrets? The captain stopped walking. His smile faded, replaced by something more serious. Because we do not want war. We spent 3,000 years preparing for one, yes. But preparation is not the same as desire. He met Doran's eyes. We want you to understand that fighting us would be costly. Too costly. We want you to choose peace instead. And if we do not choose peace? Taiho did not answer. He simply gestured at the ships floating outside, those impossible creations that broke every rule in the galaxy. That the answer was clear enough. The tour of human ships continued for many days. Each day brought new surprises. Each surprise made Doran question everything he thought he knew about warfare. On the third day, they visited the Silent Promise. It was a stealth ship, though that word did not capture what it could really do. The vessel was dark gray, covered in strange panels that seemed to eat light rather than reflect it. Captain Quan commanded the Silent Promise. He was a quiet man who spoke only when necessary. His crew moved like shadows, communicating with hand signals and whispered words. "Watch," Quan said. The Silent Promise was floating beside them, clearly visible through the observation window. Then it was not. The ship simply vanished. No flash of light. No shimmer of energy. One moment it existed. The next it did not. Doran checked every sensor on his personal device. Nothing. The ship had disappeared from reality itself. Where did it go? A delegate demanded. Nowhere. Quan's voice came from the speakers. "We are still here, right beside you. But you cannot see us. You cannot detect us. For all purposes, we do not exist." The ship reappeared behind them, behind the observation station itself. It had moved without anyone noticing. "We learned to hide," Quan explained as his ship drifted back into normal view. "When you are alone in the universe, when everyone thinks you are too dangerous to exist, hiding becomes surviving. We perfected it." Doran made notes with shaking hands. A ship that could become invisible. Truly invisible. The tactical possibilities were endless. The tactical nightmares were endless too. On the fifth day, they toured the flagship of the human fleet. The unyielding Resolve was a dreadnought, a massive warship built for the heaviest fighting. Commander Myray welcomed them aboard with a formal bow. "Your ships are beautiful," Myray said as she led them through metal corridors. "We have studied images of hegemony vessels. The smooth curves, the elegant lines. They look like art. They are optimized for combat," Doran replied. "Form follows function, does it?" Myray stopped at a junction where 5 corridors met. "Let me show you our philosophy." She opened a panel in the wall. Inside were cables and circuits and blinking lights. It looked messy, crude, even. Nothing like the clean, hidden systems of hegemony ships. "Every system on this vessel is visible, accessible, repairable." Myray closed the panel. "Your ships hide their systems behind perfect walls. Beautiful, yes. But when something breaks, your engineers must cut through those walls to reach it. On my ship, any crew member can fix any problem within minutes." They walked further. Myray pointed out more differences. The Resolve had no main bridge. Instead, it had 12 identical command stations scattered throughout the hull. "Your ships die when someone destroys the bridge," Myray explained. "Our ship has no single point of failure. Destroy 1 command station, 11 remain. Destroy 11, 1 remains. And from that 1 station, the ship can still fight." The engines were the same. Instead of 2 or 4 large engines, the Resolve had over 100 small ones. Weapons too. Hundreds of small guns rather than a few large ones. "We built redundancy into everything," Myray said. "Your ships are like bodies with 1 heart. Efficient, yes. But if that heart stops, the body dies. Our ships are like a swarm of insects. Kill half of them, the other half keeps coming." Doran struggled to process this. It went against everything the universal design principles taught. Efficiency was supposed to be the highest goal. Streamlined systems. Centralized control. Perfect optimization. Why? He asked. The universal design principles exist because they are optimal. They have been proven over 50,000 years. Myray stopped walking. She turned to face him, and her expression was thoughtful, almost sad. Optimal for what? For saving resources? For looking elegant? For fighting enemies you understand? She shook her head slowly. We were preparing to fight enemies we knew nothing about. We did not know your weapons or your tactics or your numbers. We had to be ready for everything. So we built ships that could handle everything. She gestured at the corridor around them, at the exposed systems and modular panels and redundant pathways. Your ships are refined by 50,000 years of shared knowledge. Every species in the hegemony contributed. You learned together, grew together. Your ships are the product of cooperation. Her voice grew quieter. Ours are the product of isolation, of fear, of determination to survive no matter what. Doran thought about this. 3,000 years alone. No allies, no trade, no exchange of ideas. Just humanity, trapped in their small solar system, preparing for a war that might never come. They had built warships in the dark, not knowing what they would face. And they had built them to survive anything. You could have given up, Doran said softly. You could have accepted the quarantine, lived peacefully in your cage. Myre smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Humans do not accept cages. We never have. It is not in our nature. She started walking again. Come, there is more to see. And perhaps, by the end, you will understand what we really are. Doran followed. He was beginning to understand. And what he understood frightened him more than any weapon ever could. The delegation returned to the hegemony capital with their report. It was not a comforting document. Page after page described ships that broke every rule, weapons that should not work, tactics that had never been imagined. The Council of 12 gathered in their ancient chamber, representatives of 12 species, each one proud of their place in the galaxy. They had ruled together for 50,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had never faced anything like this. High Speaker Varanth spoke first. He was a being of crystal and light, beautiful and cold. They must be contained again. These humans are dangerous. Their technology is dangerous. Their very way of thinking is dangerous. We made a mistake 3,000 years ago. We should have destroyed them then. We will not make that mistake again. Fleet Marshal Una stood. She had been promoted after her first contact with the human fleet. The council wanted her expertise. Contained how? She asked bluntly. The containment field did not hold them. They broke it from the inside. Any new field would suffer the same fate. Then we build a stronger field. With what? Una's voice was sharp. They had 3,000 years to study the last one. They know containment technology better than we do now. Anything we build, they will break. Varanth's crystals flickered with anger. Then we destroy them. Send the combined fleets of all 12 species. Overwhelm them with numbers. Una shook her head. I have seen their ships, High Speaker. Our tactical systems cannot analyze them. We cannot predict their movements. We cannot identify their weaknesses. She paused. Because they have no weaknesses. Not the kind we understand. Every ship has weaknesses. Their ships are not ships. Not in the way we think of ships. Una pulled up images from her fleet's records. Human vessels filled the chamber, holographic ghosts of metal and menace. These are not optimized designs. They are not elegant or efficient. They are survivors, built by a species that expected to die and refused to accept it. The council studied the images in silence. The blade ships, the swarm carriers, the invisible cruisers, the unkillable dreadnoughts. Each one was different. Each one was wrong. Each one was terrifying. How long to match their technology? Asked Elder Seraph of the Communion. The elder was ancient, perhaps the oldest being in the room. Their voice crackled like dry leaves. Fleet Marshal Yuna hesitated. Unknown. Their design philosophy is completely different from ours. We would have to start from nothing. Learn new ways of thinking. Abandon 50,000 years of tradition. How long? Centuries. Perhaps millennia. Silence fell again. Heavier this time. The truth was sinking in. The mighty hegemony rulers of the galaxy could not defeat a single species. A species they had locked in a cage and forgotten about. This is impossible, Vorinth insisted. They are one species. We are 12. We have resources beyond counting. We have experience beyond measuring. We cannot simply surrender to these humans. Elder Seraph finished quietly. They are called humans, and we are not surrendering to them. We are recognizing reality. The elder rose slowly, joints creaking with age. The chamber fell silent out of respect. I was alive when we built the containment field, Seraph said. I remember the debates, the fear. Humans were young then, violent, destructive. They fought each other over land and resources and ideas. We thought they would destroy themselves. The elder moved to the center of the chamber, where the holographic human ships still floated. We were wrong. Isolation did not diminish them. It refined them. Every challenge made them stronger. Every problem made them smarter. Every year in that cage taught them something new. Seraph reached out as if to touch one of the ships. We created our own nightmare. But trying to protect ourselves from humanity, we turned humanity into something far more dangerous. Then what do? Someone asked. We do what we should have done 3,000 years ago. Elder Seraph turned to face the council. We invite them in. Not as prisoners. Not as subjects. As equals. The chamber erupted. Voices overlapped in outrage and disbelief. Equals? Humans as equals? A quarantined species sitting among the ancient powers of the galaxy. Vorinth's crystals blazed with fury. They are children compared to us. Violent, unpredictable children. They do not deserve a place on this council. Perhaps not, Seraph agreed calmly. But they have earned one. They survived everything we did to them. They emerged stronger than before. And now they have ships that we cannot match and technology we cannot understand. The elder's voice hardened. We can fight them and lose. We can contain them and fail. Or we can accept them and grow. Grow? Vorinth made a sound of disgust. They will corrupt us. Change us. Destroy everything we have built. Change is not destruction. Elder Seraph returned to their seat, exhausted but determined. We have been the same for 50,000 years. The same designs. The same tactics. The same ideas. We are stagnant. Frozen. We have forgotten how to imagine new possibilities. The elder gestured at the human ships one final time. They remember. They imagine constantly. It is their nature. Perhaps, if we let them, they can teach us to imagine again. The vote took hours. Voices rose and fell. Arguments crashed like waves. But in the end, fear of war outweighed fear of change. Not an invitation was sent to the human fleet. The galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Commander Hana stood on the bridge of the TSS Pioneer and watched the stars stream past. For 3,000 years, her ancestors had dreamed of this moment. Now it was finally happening. The Pioneer led a convoy of 50 human ships into hegemony space. Behind them came blade interceptors and swarm carriers and stealth cruisers and dreadnoughts. Each ship was a miracle of human stubbornness. Each one carried the hopes of an entire species. Captain Taiho stood beside her. He had served as diplomatic liaison since the first meetings at Gateway Station. His easy smile was gone now, replaced by quiet wonder. They are watching us, he said. nodding at the hegemony escort ships that flew alongside the convoy. They kept their distance, always maintaining a careful gap. They are still afraid. They should be, Hana replied. But fear is not what we want. Not anymore. What do we want? Hana considered the question. Through the main window, she could see the hegemony capital growing larger. A beautiful planet of silver towers and golden fields. Home to billions of beings from a dozen different species. The heart of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, and now humanity was coming to join them. Respect, she decided. Recognition that different is not the same as wrong. That our way of thinking has value, even if it is not their way. She paused. And maybe a chance to show them what they have been missing? The convoy entered orbit. Below, the planet's surface was lit with countless lights. Cities that had existed for millennia. Monuments to achievements that predated human civilization. Everything about this world spoke of age and power and tradition. Human ships looked strange against that backdrop. Angular and asymmetrical, bristling with unexpected shapes. Wrong by every standard the hegemony understood. But also new. Also exciting. Also full of possibility. The docking procedures were formal and careful. No one wanted accidents. Not today. The Pioneer connected to an orbital platform, and Hana led her delegation through long corridors to the welcoming chamber. The full council of 12 waited for them. Representatives of 12 ancient species, each one dressed in ceremonial robes or armor or light. Behind them stood thousands of observers from every corner of the galaxy. Everyone wanted to witness this moment. Elder Seraph stepped forward. The ancient being moved slowly, but their eyes were bright with intelligence. Fleet Commander Hana, Seraph said. On behalf of the Galactic Hegemony, I welcome humanity to the greater community of species. We have much to learn from each other. Hana bowed respectfully. This was the moment she had trained for her entire life. The moment her mother and grandmother and all the commanders before her had dreamed of. We have waited 3,000 years for this invitation, she replied. We are eager to share what we have learned, and to discover what you might teach us. You may find our ways conservative, Seraph warned. We are old, set in our thinking. Change comes slowly to us. You may find ours disruptive. Hana allowed herself a small smile. We are young, impatient. We see problems and we want to solve them immediately. Yes, Seraph made a sound that might have been a laugh. That is exactly why we feared you, and exactly why we need you. The formal ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Documents were signed. Agreements were reached. But beneath the ceremony, something more important was happening. Humans and hegemony beings were talking to each other. Really talking. Engineers compared ship designs, finding ways to combine human creativity with hegemony refinement. Tacticians debated battle strategies, learning from each other's strengths. Scientists shared discoveries, each species offering pieces of knowledge the other had never considered. Commander Jisoo of the Eternal Dawn spoke with a hegemony admiral about swarm tactics. The admiral had spent his career fighting ship-to-ship battles. The idea of 7 million drones changed everything he thought he knew. Captain Quan of the Silent Promise sat with hegemony stealth experts. Their cloaking technology was good, but the humans had gone further. Much further. By the end of the conversation, new possibilities were already forming. Commander Myray of the Unyielding Resolve walked through crowds of curious observers. She answered questions about redundancy systems and distributed command. Hegemony engineers listened with growing excitement. These ideas could change how they built everything. And at the center of it all, Fleet Commander Hana stood with Elder Seraph and watched history unfold. Your ships truly are remarkable, Seraph said quietly. I confess I did not fully understand until I saw them up close. They are not beautiful in our way, but they are beautiful in their own way, like weapons that became art. We built them to survive, Hana replied. Every ship, every system, every design choice was made by people who expected to fight for their lives. That fear shaped us, made us creative in ways we might never have been otherwise. And now? Now that you have no enemy to fight? Hana watched a human engineer laugh at something a hegemony scientist said. Two species, meaning for the first time, already finding common ground. Now we build for other reasons. For exploration. For discovery. For connection. She turned to face Seraph. We spent 3,000 years alone. Preparing for war. Expecting the worst. It hardened us, yes. Made us strong. But it also taught us the value of what we did not have. Which is? Friendship, partnership, the chance to share our ideas and learn new ones. Hannah's voice grew soft. We were ready for war, Elder. We would have fought if we had to. But this is better. Much better. Seraph nodded slowly. The galaxy has been still for a long time. Frozen in tradition. Perhaps too frozen. You humans are like fire. Dangerous, yes. But also warm. Also bright. Also capable of melting ice that has been solid for millennia. Is that a good thing? I believe so. We shall see together. The celebration continued into the night. Human and hegemony beings danced and talked and dreamed together. The impossible ships floated in orbit, a reminder of what determination could create. The ancient council chamber echoed with new voices, new ideas, new possibilities. 3,000 years of isolation had ended. The cage was broken. The forgotten world was forgotten no more. And as Fleet Commander Hana looked out at the gathering of species, at the mixing of old and new, at the beginning of something wonderful, she felt something she had never expected to feel. Hope that the humans were finally home. Not on Earth, not in their small solar system, but here, among the stars, where they had always belonged. The real journey was just beginning.